I mean, imagine staring down the climax of a 5-year apocalyptic saga. The world is quite literally on the precipice of burning to the ground. The stakes have never been higher, and the director decides to spend 5 minutes looking through the eyes of an English bulldog. I mean, is that sheer artistic genius, a profound psychological breath before the fall,
Or a complete structural collapse.
Well, you have to appreciate the sheer architectural bravery of Season 5, Episode 5. One Shots is a non-linear symphony. It is a transitional monument of modern art that really forces the audience to.
A symphony? Oh, please. It is a playlist on shuffle, darling. You're calling an hour of filler bravery when it's clearly, just algorithmic sludge.
It is absolutely not sludge.
A 4 out of 10 IGN score.
Which means nothing, frankly.
The brutal, unprecedented review bombing on IMDb? This isn't prestige television. It's naked brand management masquerading as deep storytelling.
Welcome to the debate. As you can already hear, today's discourse centers on one of the most polarizing hours of television in recent memory. We are unpacking the highly contested structure and narrative choices of The Boys Season 5, Episode 5, One Shots.
Yes, we certainly are.
The central question we are exploring today is whether this anthology-style departure, which is very reminiscent of 22 short films about Springfield, serves as a character-driven pause necessary for a doomed cast, or if it is merely an expensive stalling tactic designed to cover a dwindling visual effects budget. I will be defending this hour as a masterful, deliberate inventory of these characters, highlighting the thematic resonance and the aesthetic of sorrow it brings to the franchise.
Right, and I will be exposing it for what it truly is: industrial waste. It is a messy stalling tactic, a cynical series of backdoor pilots, and just a glaring example of a corporation trying to wring every last cent out of its intellectual property before the clock runs out.
Well, let us look closely at the architecture of the episode itself. The decision to fracture the narrative into distinct points of view for a single day is a masterful pause.
Masterful. It is. Primarily because it allows for a profound psychological inventory. We see this most clearly and most tragically in the demise of Firecracker. I mean, if you were watching this on Thursday night, you were probably checking your watch, wondering when the actual plot was going to start.
Because there wasn't one.
But what you might have missed was a brilliant exploration of the tragedy of blind loyalty and the total loss of humanity under a fascist regime. To prove her loyalty to Homelander's new AI-generated Democratic Church of America, she literally betrays her hometown pastor. She frames the very man who raised her with fabricated abuse allegations.
Which was incredibly rushed, by the way.
But what is her reward? After a leaked moment of pillow talk with Soldier Boy, where she expresses a fleeting moment of pity saying, "We all need love, don't we, even God?" Homelander murders her. Yep, disposable character cleanup.
But it isn't just that she dies, it's how she dies. Homelander doesn't use his lasers to cleanly vaporize her from a distance. He uses physical blunt force trauma against a symbol of American freedom.
Ah, the eagle statue.
Exactly. An eagle statue. How he kills her is a visual representation of fascism violently crushing empathy. It is a breathtaking aesthetic of sorrow. Her death isn't just plot, it is a profound thesis on the fact that acknowledging a dictator's vulnerability is the ultimate crime.
Look, I'm sorry, but I just don't buy that. Let me tell you why. You use phrases like aesthetic of sorrow, and honestly, it makes me roll my eyes.
It's an accurate description of the framing.
Firecracker's death wasn't some grand Greek tragedy. It was simple, disposable character cleanup. Showrunner Eric Kripke is staring down the barrel of a series finale, and he just had too many pieces on the board. So what does he do?
He crafts a fitting end.
He uses a lazy, rushed excuse, leaked pillow talk, really? To write her off. Smashing her head on an eagle statue isn't high art. It's the exact kind of blunt force sophomore dorm room symbolism this show has been churning out for years.
I completely disagree with that assessment.
She was a tool for the narrative, and when she outlived her usefulness, they threw her in the trash to save on screen time for the finale. It's not a thesis on dictatorships, it's spreadsheet management.
Well, I see why you view it as a logistical culling. But if it were merely spreadsheet management,
The writers would not have tied her death so intricately to Homelander's deepest psychological wound. He doesn't kill her because she's useless. He kills her because she saw him as human.
Mm-hmm.
And the brutal intimacy of that blunt force execution perfectly mirrors the visceral gore of another highly scrutinized sequence, the massacre at Mr. Marathon's Los Angeles mansion.
Oh, here we go.
Moving from the intimate violence of Firecracker's exit, we arrive at what is essentially a profound intersection of television legacies.
You mean the cameo-gasm?
The reunion of the supernatural cast Jensen Ackles as Soldier Boy, Jared Padalecki as Mr. Marathon, and Misha Collins as Malchemical could have been a cheap gimmick. Instead, it's anchored in a deeply affecting psychological choice.
Affecting. It was a bloodbath.
When Malchemical gasses Homelander, leaving him vulnerable, Mr. Marathon urges Soldier Boy to finish him off. But Soldier Boy refuses. He looks at this monster he helped create, calls him my fucking asexual weirdo, and chooses his bloodline over saving the world. It's a tragic inversion of paternal instinct. It completely subverts what we expect from superhero climaxes.
That's a compelling argument on paper, but have you considered that you are desperately projecting meaning onto a massive, self-indulgent inside joke? Because that is exactly what the sequence was.
It is thematic continuity.
You're talking about legacy and paternal instinct, and I'm looking at a $5 million stunt. They brought Jared Padalecki and Misha Collins onto the set solely to turn Sam and Castile into human mulch.
That is a very cynical way to look at.
But it was a one-time deal meant to generate Twitter engagement, pure and simple. It is shock value fan service at its most indulgent. Kripke got his old band back together just so he could brutally butcher them on screen for a cheap laugh. Calling Homelander an asexual weirdo before blasting your former castmates into oblivion isn't nuanced storytelling. It's Eric Kripke got playing with action figures while Amazon foots the bill.
But that cameo doesn't exist in a vacuum. The tragedy of Soldier Boy choosing his bloodline is physically surrounded by the rot of the industry that created them. Mr. Marathon's mansion is plastered with those fake movie posters, which serve as the epicenter's audacious Hollywood satire.
Audacious, right.
Yes, Madame Marathon is a clear, scathing jab at the spectacular failure of Madame Web. Around the Speedyverse openly mocks the exhaustion of multiverse narratives. And the absolute pinnacle of this self-reflection is Homelander's fourth wall-breaking line.
The Sony Pictures TV line.
Exactly. He looks at these derivative, soulless posters and mocks Sony Pictures TV as the place where washed-up soups go to die. I mean, the audacity required for a show produced by Sony Pictures Television to broadcast the line that viciously insults Sony Pictures Television is staggering. It is a level of institutional critique that elevates the material far beyond mere fan service.
Institutional critique? Wow. I come at it from a completely different way. It's like a mega corporation selling you the sledgehammer to smash their own windows. They don't care if you're angry or critical, as long as you bought the hammer from them.
But they are actively acknowledging their own complicity.
That is exactly what Amazon and Sony are doing with these fake movie posters. It is rank hypocrisy. You have a corporate-funded show patting itself on the back for mocking corporate-funded movies. It's not audacious. It's a controlled release of pressure. The corporations are in on the joke, which completely neutralizes the satire. And this corporate saturation reaches its absolute, agonizing zenith during that poker game scene.
The poker game is a razor-sharp dissection of elite detachment.
Oh, please. It is performative activism mocking performative activism. You have Seth Rogen, who literally produces this show in real life, sitting around with Will Forte and Kumail Nanjiani, trying to seem edgy while discussing the execution of their peers. Will Forte deadpanning that he's glad Bill Hader was executed. It's just Hollywood elites smelling their own exhaust.
They are demonstrating how insulated the upper class is from fascists.
Their grand plan to stop a fascist Superman is to post black squares on social media, or maybe blue squares, or, heaven forbid, have Lena Dunham write a think piece for The Atlantic. Kumail comparing real-world fascism to Luke Skywalker and Katniss Everdeen, I mean, it's just Hollywood laughing at itself to preemptively deflect criticism. They are saying, look how self-aware we are about our uselessness while cashing massive checks. It isn't bravery. It's an immunity idol.
That's an interesting point, though I would frame it differently. The reason the poker scene works is precisely because it makes you angry at their uselessness.
Well, it certainly made me angry.
It's just designed to be infuriating. It highlights the vast chasm between the superficial, high-gloss world of Hollywood performative activism and the grim reality on the ground. And the episode brilliantly juxtaposes this high society detachment with the lowest, most grounded perspective possible, the floor-level POV of Terror the Bulldog.
Oh no. Are we really defending the dog?
This segment has been wildly misunderstood by the audience. By lowering the camera to a low-angle, wide-lens perspective, the director traps us in a nonverbal state of helplessness. We are forced to just watch the human characters self-destruct. Terra cannot speak, but he observes the unbridgeable rift forming between Frenchie and Kimiko. He senses the looming specter of mortality hanging over Mother's Milk. Through this dog, we see the broken, unspoken dynamics of a team that has lost its way. It forces the audience to stop looking at the explosive plot and start looking at the emotional wreckage.
Wait, let me stop you right there. I genuinely think your psychological theories are cute, but they are completely delusional.
Delusional?
Yes. You're calling a scene where a bulldog humps a Homelander plushie a melancholic lens? How does that serve the emotional wreckage, rather than just being a cheap sight gag?
It's the degradation of...
We're talking about an entire segment shot from the perspective of a dog that eats chocolate and behaves like a mascot. This is exactly what I mean by algorithmic sludge. It's a new low for intellectual property. They didn't put a camera on a dog to explore the aesthetic of sorrow between Frenchie and Kimiko. They did it because paying a dog trainer is significantly cheaper than rendering a CGI battle sequence in downtown Manhattan. You are romanticizing a budget cut.
Well, I'm not convinced by that line of reasoning because it assumes art cannot emerge from logistical constraints. Some of the greatest cinematic techniques in history, from the shark in Jaws to the minimalism of early indie cinema, were born from budget cuts.
So Terra the dog is the new Jaws?
But more importantly, the Terra segment serves as a tonal counterweight. You call it a budget constraint, but look at the narrative engine they are building in the background. The world building we get surrounding Sister Sage's apocalyptic machinations and the hunt for V1 is meticulous.
Meticulous? It's exhausting.
It is essential. Sage isn't just plotting a corporate takeover. She is a true chaos agent engineering a global apocalypse, offering Ashley a bunker in Colorado Springs for the end of the world. And this ties perfectly into the historical lore of Fort Harmony in the 1950s and the revelation about the pilot bomb site.
Right, bomb site.
He stole the last vial of pure compound V, V1. Now, we have to remember why this matters mechanically. Homelander's cellular decay from the green-enriched uranium isn't just a random plot device. It fundamentally changes his psychological baseline from arrogance to sheer panic. He is dying.
Which we already knew.
That panic dictates every irrational, violent choice he makes in this hour, including the murder of Firecracker. He desperately needs V1 to cure his radiation decay. This isn't stalling. It is setting up the pieces for a massive, catastrophic collision.
Do you hear yourself right now? You are doing the writer's marketing for them. It's naked product placement.
How is exploring the core mythology product placement?
Because every single minute spent talking about bomb site, the 1950s, and Fort Harmony is stolen airtime. It is airtime stolen from the main story's finale just so Amazon can secure its next revenue stream. This entire V1 subplot is nothing but a backdoor pilot for the Vought Rising spinoff.
It serves both purposes.
They are literally pausing the climax of a 5-season arc to run a commercial for a prequel starring Jensen Ackles and Aya Cash. You praise Sage's apocalyptic machinations, but her real superpower seems to be corporate synergy. Ashley isn't stuck between Homelander's narcissism and Sage's nihilism. She's stuck in a boardroom pitch meeting.
Even if it functions as a bridge to a broader universe, the internal logic of the narrative holds perfectly. Homelander's physical decay, his absolute terror at the prospect of losing his godhood, makes the pursuit of V1 a deeply character-driven motivation. The episode enriches the present stakes by deepening the past.
It derails the present stakes.
When Sister Sage uses Black Noir 2's telepathy to probe Soldier Boy's mind, it isn't just a setup for a spin-off. It's a brilliant tactical move in the current war, utilizing the specific mechanics of these soups' abilities
to unearth buried secrets. The narrative architecture supports both the immediate climax and the expanded universe. It is a delicate, difficult balance that One Shots pulls off with undeniable style.
Style is an incredibly generous word for a structurally collapsed hour of television that alienates half its audience right before the finish line. Look, we can debate the merits of a 22-vignette structure all day, but the reality is this. When you are 3 hours away from the end of a multi-year saga, the audience expects rising tension.
They expect
the payoff of 5 years of emotional investment. What they do not expect is a leisurely stroll down memory lane to look at fake movie posters, listen to Seth Rogen pat himself on the back, and watch an English bulldog relieve itself on a stuffed toy. You call it a necessary breath, I call it gasping for air while the studio figures out how to keep our credit cards on file for the next 3 years.
Look, as we wrap this up, I'm not backing down. Season 5, Episode 5 isn't just a speed bump. It's a necessary deep breath. It is an essential, deeply psychological transitional monument. It purposefully slows the tempo, stripping away the relentless forward momentum to force us into a moment of reflection.
Reflection. Right.
From Firecracker's tragic inability to navigate a dictator's fragility to the poignant, low-angle observations of a loyal dog watching his owners fall apart, this episode demands that we look at the emotional toll of this universe before it inevitably burns to the ground.
And I will summarize it exactly as the fans did. The 4 out of 10 IGN score isn't a mistake. It reflects an indulgent, review-bombed exercise in brand management. It is a cynical hour of television that butchers beloved guest stars for a quick hit of social media engagement, pats itself on the back for recognizing its own corporate hypocrisy, and shamelessly shoves a prequel series down the audience's throat while calling it lore. It's an architectural marvel, all right, if the building you're designing is a strip mall.
Well, while we clearly remain deeply divided on the underlying intentions of this hour, we do find a point of convergence. One Shots radically and undeniably shifts the pacing and tone ahead of the series finale. Whether you view this shift as sheer architectural bravery or a desperate corporate-mandated stall, it has forced all of us to reevaluate what we expect from the climax of a massive television narrative.
It certainly shifted my expectations, I'll give you that much. It's always fascinating to see how the sausage is made, even if you end up losing your appetite once you see the factory floor.
Indeed. We invite you, listener, to look closely at the architecture of your own favorite media. Is the slowing of a narrative an invitation to look deeper, to sit with the aesthetic of sorrow, or is it just a loading screen for the next product? There is so much more to explore in the material, and ultimately it is up to you to decide if One Shots is a nonlinear symphony or an expensive commercial. Thank you for joining us, and as always, keep questioning the blueprint.